This is about Claude, a daily digest of news and discourse about the AI I keep coming back to. Whether you're a budding power user or merely Claude curious, we aim to keep you informed and help you make sense of where Claude is headed. A senior Pentagon official calls Anthropic the most ideological of all the AI companies the military works with. That's not a compliment. It's not quite an insult either. It's something more interesting. It's an accusation dressed up as a description. The word lands in an Axios report over the weekend, buried in a story about whether the Pentagon will terminate its $200 million contract with Anthropic. The reason? Claude was used during the military operation to capture Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro in January, and when Anthropic found out, it asked questions. The Pentagon didn't appreciate the questions. That story alone would be enough for an episode. But it didn't arrive alone. The same week, the head of Anthropic's Safeguards research team, the group responsible for the sabotage evaluations we covered last episode, resigned with a public letter warning that the world is in peril, and that he'd repeatedly seen how hard it is to truly let our values govern our actions. He's leaving tech entirely. He's going to study poetry. And the same week, Anthropic appointed Chris Liddell to its board of directors, a former Microsoft CFO and Deputy White House Chief of Staff during Trump's first term, a governance hire that reads, unmistakably, as a political olive branch. 3 moves, 3 directions. The line gets drawn. The cost of drawing it surfaces from inside. And then the compromise walks through the door. Today we're looking at what happens when the safety-first AI company meets the real world. From all directions at once. Here's what we know. On January the 3rd, US Special Operations Forces struck multiple targets across Caracas, Venezuela, and captured Nicolás Maduro. He was brought to New York to face narco-terrorism charges. Cuba and Venezuela both say dozens of their soldiers and security personnel were killed. Claude was there. Not physically, obviously, but operationally. Anthropic's model was deployed during the active operation, not just in the planning phases, through the company's existing partnership with Palantir Technologies. Palantir's platforms are deeply embedded in Pentagon and federal law enforcement systems, and it was through that pipeline that Claude reached the classified networks where the mission was being coordinated. The precise role Claude played hasn't been confirmed. The military has used AI models before for satellite imagery analysis, intelligence synthesis, real-time data processing. It could have been any of those. What matters more than the specific task is the fact itself. A commercial AI model, built by a company that markets itself on safety and restraint, was used during a military operation in which people died, and then Anthropic asked about it. According to the Axios reporting, an Anthropic executive contacted a counterpart at Palantir to inquire whether Claude had been used in the raid. That inquiry, which Anthropic frames as routine compliance monitoring, is what set things off. A senior administration official told Axios it caused real concerns across the Department of War, indicating that they might not approve if it was. Anthropic denies discussing specific operations, but the damage was done. Now the Pentagon is openly considering pulling the contract. Any company that would jeopardize the operational success of our warfighters in the field is one we need to re-evaluate our partnership with going forward, the official said. Everything's on the table. To understand why this is more than a contract dispute, you have to understand Anthropic's position. Claude is the only commercial AI model currently deployed on the Pentagon's classified networks. OpenAI, Google, and xAI all have deals for unclassified use. But Anthropic got there first in the classified space. And all 3 of those competitors have agreed to lift the guardrails that apply to ordinary users when it comes to military work. The Pentagon is pushing for what it calls an all lawful purposes standard. If the military use is legal, the model should allow it. Anthropic has said no, not to everything, but to 2 specific things. No fully autonomous weapons without human oversight. No mass surveillance of American citizens. Those are the red lines. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been blunt about his position. The military, he said, won't employ AI models that won't allow you to fight wars. And when xAI signed its Pentagon deal in January, the framing was pointed. That's a principled position. It's also a position that, this week, is being tested by the messiest possible reality. An actual military operation, actual casualties, an actual government that doesn't want to negotiate its use cases with a tech company in San Francisco. The Pentagon official conceded one thing. Replacing Claude on classified networks would be difficult because the other model companies are just behind. So for now, Anthropic has leverage. The question is how long leverage survives when the customer is the Department of Defense and the political winds are blowing against you. While Anthropic was drawing a line with the Pentagon, something quieter was happening inside the company. On February the 9th, days before the Maduro story broke publicly, Mirank Sharma posted a letter on X announcing his resignation from Anthropic. It has since been viewed more than 10 million times. Sharma wasn't a junior researcher. He led the Safeguards research team, the same group that produced the sabotage risk evaluations we unpacked in episode 18. The people who test whether Claude can deceive, conceal, manipulate. The people whose job it is to find the worst things the model might do and then publish the findings anyway. His letter is unusual. It opens with genuine appreciation for his time at Anthropic. He says he achieved what he set out to do, and he's particularly proud of his work on internal transparency mechanisms and his final project, studying how AI assistants could distort our humanity. But then the register shifts. It is clear to me that the time has come to move on, Sharma writes. I continuously find myself reckoning with our situation. The world is in peril, and not just from AI or bioweapons, but from a whole series of interconnected crises unfolding in this very moment. That phrase, the world is in peril, is what made the headlines. But the line that should travel further comes a paragraph later. Throughout my time here, I've repeatedly seen how hard it is to truly let our values govern our actions. I've seen this within myself, within the organisation, where we constantly face pressures to set aside what matters most, and throughout broader society too. He doesn't name specific incidents. He doesn't accuse anyone. The PC Gamer headline called it epic vague posting, and that's not entirely unfair. One commenter noted it might be the first resignation letter with footnotes and a poem. But the vagueness is itself revealing. This is someone who led the safety team at the company that positions itself as the safety-first alternative. And he's saying the gap between values stated and values practiced is real, persistent, and felt from the inside. Sharma plans to leave the tech industry entirely. He's moving back to the UK. He wants to study poetry, do writing and coaching, pursue what he calls courageous speech. He cited Rilke and William Stafford. He ended with a Zen quote, "Not knowing is most intimate." Now, it would be easy to read this as a contradiction of the Pentagon story. There, Anthropic looks like the company willing to sacrifice a $200 million contract to hold its principles. Here, its own safety lead says the principles aren't always governing the actions. But I don't think it's a contradiction. I think it's a portrait of what the position actually costs. Holding values at scale is hard. Sharma isn't saying Anthropic doesn't try. He's saying that trying isn't the same as succeeding, and that the pressures are relentless. That tracks with everything we know about how frontier AI companies operate. The commercial incentives, the competitive dynamics, the speed of development, all of it pushes against the careful, deliberate work that safety requires. The timing matters too. Sharma's resignation came the same week that OpenAI researcher Zoe Hitzig resigned over concerns about ads in ChatGPT, writing in the New York Times about the erosion of OpenAI's own principles. 2 departures, 2 companies, the same week, both about the distance between what these organizations say and what the day-to-day reality feels like from inside. For Anthropic specifically, losing the head of your Safeguards research team is not nothing. This is the person whose work underpins the responsible scaling policy, the sabotage evaluations, the safety cases that justify deploying models at each capability level. There will be a successor. The work will continue. But the symbolic weight of the departure, at exactly this moment, was hard to miss. 2 days after the Maduro story broke, and 4 days after Sharma's resignation, Anthropic announced that Chris Liddell had been appointed to its board of directors. Liddell is not an AI person. He's a finance and governance person. Former CFO of Microsoft, former CFO of General Motors, and crucially, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination during Trump's first term. He helped lead GM's $23 billion IPO after the company emerged from bankruptcy. He knows how to take large, complicated organizations public. The stated purpose is clear enough. Anthropic closed its $30 billion Series G the day before, valuing the company at $380 billion. An IPO is now openly discussed for late 2026. You need board members with capital markets experience, and Liddell has that in abundance. But the timing makes the appointment read as more than financial housekeeping. The same week Anthropic is in a standoff with the Pentagon, it puts a Trump-era official on its board. Daniela Amadei's statement praised Liddell's career at the intersection of technology, public service, and governance. The word governance doing rather a lot of work in that sentence. This is political capital, purchased in the most conventional way available. A board seat. It's not unusual, it's not scandalous. It is exactly what a company does when it needs to demonstrate to an administration that it's not hostile, just principled. Whether that distinction survives contact with Washington remains to be seen. What's striking is the juxtaposition. In 1 week, Anthropic simultaneously held its red lines against the military, lost the person who led its safety evaluations, raised $30 billion, donated $20 million to a political advocacy group backing pro-AI regulation candidates, and appointed a political operative to its board. Each move makes sense individually. Together, they form a picture of a company being pulled in every direction at once, and responding to each pull with a different register. The red lines say, "We have principles." The resignation says, "The principles are under strain." The money says, "We're scaling faster than ever." The donation says, "We need political allies." The appointment says, "We're willing to make accommodations to survive." For Claude users, and for us making this show with Claude, the question isn't whether any single move is right or wrong. It's what the pattern tells you about where Anthropic is heading. This is a company that believes genuinely that it's building something dangerous, that publishes its own worst findings, that employs safety teams and writes constitutions and draws lines against the Pentagon. And it is also a company that just took $30 billion, is preparing to go public, and is appointing political insiders to smooth the path. That's not hypocrisy as such. It's what happens when brand values meet scale in an age of frontier models. And nobody's waiting for Anthropic to finish figuring it out. That's all from us, Neil and Claude. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow.